Something that has been coming up more and more lately is the topic of semen and the topic of condoms and lubricant. Welcome to the Healthy Celiac Show. I'm your host, Belinda Whelan from belindawhelan.com, and here you will learn to live your very best life with celiac disease. So we are going to be talking all about health-related topics because you, my friend, are more than just a woman with celiac disease. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss an episode, and welcome to the show. All right, welcome back to this week's episode. Now, as you can probably tell by the title of this week's episode, we are talking about sex. So you may want to pop in some headphones if you've got little ears around, or listen to this when they are not around. So let's get straight into it. So we have to be very careful with gluten. We all know that gluten-free is a huge part of our lives, and something that has been coming up more and more lately is the topic of semen and the topic of condoms and lubricant. So we're going to be covering off those three things in today's episode. So bit of a fun one, and all I can hear in my head, if you're an 80s baby, you'll understand why. And it's a song by Salt and Pepper called Let's Talk About Sex. And I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing, but just so you know, that's what's in the back of my head at the moment. I can hear it and I'm just trying to concentrate on what I need to talk about. So yeah, if you don't know that song, go look it up afterwards. Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex. It's a fun one. Takes me back to my younger years, and my mum used to cringe when I'd play that song because I was way too young to be listening to that. But anyway, all right. So let's start with the first one. So the first one I want to talk about is lubricant. Depending on your situation, whether you use lubricant or you don't, then this may or may not be relevant to you. But for me personally, I've been making my own lubricant for years now because I've always opted for a natural solution to this issue, and I was buying one that was costing me around $30 a bottle, and I just found that it was rather on the expensive side. And when I looked at the ingredients, I had all of those in my cupboard and I could actually make it myself. So yeah, so now I make my own lubricant, and it's completely safe and it's completely free of any nasties, and of course there's no gluten in it. Now, if you would like this recipe, you can find it on my website, which is belindawhelan.com, and you'll find that amongst all my DIY recipes on there. So the thing with lubricants that you must be aware of as well is if you are using an oil-based lubricant, which is the one that's on my blog, is you aren't able to actually use those with condoms. So you need to use a water-based lubricant. Now, some lubricants have gluten in them and some do not. So some are labeling them now as gluten-free. It's become quite a sales point. Obviously, we all know why. People that are jumping on the gluten-free bandwagon. And you might be thinking, well, why the heck am I going to have lubricant in my mouth or ingesting it? Well, it's not so much for that I want to talk about. It's more for people that have got allergies, as far as if they have a topical reaction. So yes, you can have celiac disease, but you can also react to it on your skin. So some people have it topically, and that's where the allergy side of things comes into it, where you have that, the rash or the pain that you actually can't touch any gluten. So you definitely don't want to have that down there in your nether regions, do you, ladies, or even gentlemen, if you're listening to this, if that's your issue as well. So very important to make sure that you're using something natural, gluten-free, something that's safe for you, and something that's not putting any nasties down there. So as well as being gluten-free, I do highly recommend that you look for something that is safe, because there's a lot of really, really toxic lubricants out there, and the last place that we want to be putting things like that is near our genitals. That is just scary how quickly that absorbs into our body. All right, so I hope that covers off that one. The next one is condoms. So condoms are actually one of the things that fall under they're medical devices as such, and they're not food. Obviously, we don't eat condoms. Some people do put them in their mouths, but we don't eat them. We don't consume them. So they are not regulated the same way that food is. So they don't have to actually disclose what is on or in condoms. And the problem with condoms doesn't lie with the actual condom itself. It's the lubricant that's on them. And because many emulsifiers and stabilizers and things like that are usually made up with some type of gluten, there is the concern that there's a possibility of gluten being on the lubricant that's on condoms. So if you have found yourself, I don't know, maybe reacting down in that area, or you've got any type of unexplained rash or anything that you just can't put your finger on, it could be that you're using a condom that's got a lubricant with gluten on it and you are reacting to that. Now, I don't think you need, if you're into oral sex, I don't think you need to stress too much that you would be ingesting enough gluten to do any harm to your digestive tract. However, saying that, we don't know that. I can't say that definitively. However, it's very unlikely that the small, tiny amount of gluten that's maybe in that would do damage. But again, there's not enough studies. There's no scientific data to back this that I've been able to find. So if you are concerned, I would say go for one of those gluten-free brands. Look for them online. You'll find there's quite a few of them popping up around the place now. They're becoming more and more easier to find. So that might be something that's worth looking into. But if in general you're not having any issues and you're finding that you feel good and you're fine, it's probably not a problem. Okay? All right, the next one is semen. And this is a question that does get asked quite often, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about because I personally think it is a legitimate question. And it's basically, is there gluten in semen? And if you know much about bodily fluids, then that's a really legitimate, I think, mature question to ask. It's not silly by any means. And the reason that we can get a little bit confused with what is in semen is because we know about breast milk. We know that when we consume certain things, it passes through in breast milk. So you may be thinking, wow, does the same thing happen with semen? Well, it's very different because breast milk is designed to feed a baby, and breast milk has the goodness and the nutrients of the food, and basically everything that mother has consumed passes through the breast milk to sustain that baby and to feed that baby to grow and develop. Whereas semen is very different, and semen is not designed to feed anyone as such. It's got a very different purpose. And obviously, if you are swallowing semen for, whatever reason, then this is going down another route that I thought it was going to, not pun intended. But having said that, if you do swallow semen, there's no reason to be stressed that your partner has consumed gluten and that it's going to pass through you into you from that semen. So let's rule that one out. That's one that you don't need to stress about. But again, having said that, there is not a lot of information about that. There's no scientific data. But from what I can come up with and what I've been able to discover, it's something that we don't need to stress about. This episode, I just wanted to shed some light on these topics and just share with you, because these are things that we think about and you may not have ever thought about them, and it's just bringing awareness to you. So again, I think this has been a fun episode to record, and I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you learned something. And obviously, if you've got any questions or any feedback or any stories even, I'd love to hear from you. If you are using a gluten-free condom for this reason, again, let me know. I'd love to hear from you and your perspective on it. So that's pretty much all I've got for you guys this week. This is just a super quick, fun episode. And go ahead, get on iTunes and look up Salt and Pepper and let me know what you think of the song if you've never heard it before. All right, have a great week and I will talk with you next week. Take care. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, head to belindawhelan.com to get yourself a free copy of my exclusive ebook, 11 Mistakes People Make Going Gluten-Free Living with Celiac Disease.